Two Reuters journalists injured, driver killed in Ukraine. The incident took place in war-torn eastern Ukraine when the journalists were traveling in a vehicle provided by the Russian-backed separatists. Two journalists working for the international news agency Reuters were lightly wounded and their driver killed on Friday in eastern Ukraine. China gears up to launch its second home-built, aircraft carrier. The imminent launch of the carrier comes at a time when China is rapidly expanding its naval presence in the far seas, and has already become the navy with the largest number of warships in the world. The Type 003 aircraft carrier is under construction at the state-owned Jiangnan shipyard on Chongqing Island in Shanghai, which is emerging from a months-long crippling COVID-19 lockdown. Ukraine war: hungry Africans are victims of the conflict, Macky Sall tells Vladimir Putin. African countries are innocent victims of the war in Ukraine and Russia should help ease their suffering, the head of the African Union has told Vladimir Putin at a meeting in Russia. After talks in Sochi, Macky Sall said the Russian leader had promised to ease the export of cereals and fertilizer, but gave no details. Mr. Putin denied Moscow was preventing Ukrainian ports from exporting grain. Over 40% of wheat consumed in Africa usually comes from Russia and Ukraine. But Ukraine's ports in the Black Sea have been largely blocked for exports since the conflict began. Kiev and its allies blame Moscow for blockading the ports, which Ukraine has mined to prevent a Russian amphibious assault. Failure to open those ports will result in famine, the UN's crisis coordinator Amin Awad said in Geneva. He said a grain shortage could affect 1.4 billion people and trigger mass migration. Gay rights: Jerusalem celebrates 20 years of pride marches. Thousands of people have taken part in a colorful parade through the streets of Jerusalem carrying flags and banners as part of the city's annual LGBTQ+ Pride March. Jerusalem has held an annual celebration of LGBTQ+ rights since 2002, often having to push back against intimidation from ultra-Orthodox Jews, among others. Israel has emerged as a major LGBT-friendly location in recent years, in sharp contrast to many neighboring countries where gay people face persecution. But in Jerusalem, a holy city for Muslim, Christians and Jews, the LGBT community faces a tougher time gaining acceptance than in some coastal cities, like Tel Aviv. More than 2,400 police officers were deployed to protect marchers after organizers received death threats on Twitter and Facebook. And several dozen protesters against the march gathered along the route. Despite the threats, up to 7,000 people attended the march. The parade ended at Independence Park and featured performances from several Israeli singers.